a website is one of those things that it's a bit like if you build a house, you'll not necessarily have the exact same house 50 years later. You're probably going to go in and you're going to tweak things, and you're going to update things, and you're going to modernize things based on trends and sort of design trends and things like that. So that's really, really key. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the ProfileTree podcast. I'm joined today by Jack and Khadija, two of our digital strategists. And today we're going to be talking about websites. So specifically, as a small business, if you're considering setting up a website, everything you really need to know before you even get started. So before we even get into the kind of logistics of it, Jack, from your experience and your perspective and any kind of research that you've done, what would you say are kind of the most important reasons that a web or a business might need to set up a website?
Just even through like personal experience myself, like I know myself, if I'm looking for something or looking for a business or service and maybe doing a wee bit of research into it, I'm less likely to trust a business that doesn't even have a website. Or in most cases, some websites or some businesses don't even have kind of Google My Business profiles. So it's definitely kind of more of a personal thing to me as well, but even just it kind of has research to back it up as well. So IE ran a survey during COVID and found that 95% of consumers were shopping online. Obviously, that was probably just a sign of the times with COVID, but I'm sure it kind of has stayed to that kind of high percentage in more recent times. And in that kind of survey themselves, they found that 36% of consumers trusted businesses that were only using social media, and only 20% of them trusted kind of businesses that didn't even have a website in general.
Yeah,
So it's definitely something. It's just up to consumer trust.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's credibility, isn't it? It's kind of having those additional channels that people can find you on, whether it be for them to, get in touch or buy directly from you, but even just to know that you are a legitimate business. Because yeah, like websites 100%, and I think the Google Business Profile thing is a huge connection to that as well, because obviously it's a place that loads of people might go to, find reviews and everything. And absolutely we saw a huge influx of small businesses in and around NI during COVID, where I suppose it was simply they didn't have a choice. If they couldn't open their doors to the public, they were happy
Yeah.
to go online. And I suppose it was like a necessity thing. But definitely that helped shape trends, hasn't it, Khadija, over the past few years? Like there's the convenience there as well, isn't there?
And convenience is also it's a good thing to note, because unlike social media platforms where you're kind of subject to the algorithm and you've got the risk of like accounts getting restricted and things like that, you control your website. So it's a space that's online that's fully yours, and where you can control the content, you can control what people see, and through like good sort of SEO optimization techniques as well. It's a lot easier sometimes to even get found online as well. So you have more of you've more control over your website, as opposed to if you're restricted just on social media, you're kind of subject to the algorithm and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a really key thing, isn't it? Is to make sure that
Yeah.
it was something that even if you haven't created it yourself, that it's something that you fully control and manage. And we'll sort of get into that in a bit more detail shortly. So I suppose that the most logical first step to consider whenever you're deciding to set up a website for your small business is how to choose the right platform. I suppose there's an overwhelming amount of information around out there in terms of how someone might actually do that. Obviously, there's the major industry leaders, um, like Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, and everything that some people may be aware of if they're in some way connected to marketing or have used a business website before. Um, but there's lots of different considerations, I guess, in terms of how you might choose the right platform. I mean, I suppose maybe the best way to approach this is to, pick a specific scenario. Could use for example, if I am a local service-based business, mainly trading in the NI market. I have never built a website before, no idea about website design or development. Where would you suggest I would look first in terms of a suitable website builder or platform?
Yeah, there's loads of platforms out there, and one thing that you want to consider first is your website goal. Like, what is your goal for your website? Is it just to simply have an online presence? Is it for lead generation? Is it e-commerce? You want to start selling products? If you pick the wrong platform for your goal, then everything else becomes harder later. So for example, if you are a service-based business and you're trying to get more kind of an online presence, you want to get found online, just a simple builder like something like Wix or Squarespace, it can be a great start, because those platforms are designed for people who don't come from a technical background, but they obviously need a website for their business. They work similar to if you've ever used anything like Canva, where you have like a canvas and you've got an editor where you can drag and drop certain elements. Both Wix and Squarespace work in that same way as well. Shopify can be a really great one for e-commerce specifically. It's worth knowing with all of these platforms, practice really is key. So the more you kind of start to use the platforms a bit more, start adding in your own pages, your own sections, it does start to get easier, but it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, I guess, for a lot of people to even think about building a website on their own. Before, it could be it was something that, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even consider building it by themselves. It would be something that we'd need to hire someone to do. It's going to be really expensive. But all of these platforms have evolved now to make it as easy as possible, especially through AI as well. Wix, Shopify, Squarespace have all implemented AI within their builders, not just to content generation as well. Shopify have their new kind of AI sidekick within their editor, where you can literally tell the AI how you want to design a certain section. So say, for example, I want a section that has some text on the left and an image on the right that I can change easily. It will then code that for you within a matter of minutes and add it to your website. So there's a lot of ways that these platforms have all evolved to help people build a website as easy as possible, but it also looks good and matches their branding as well. So you need to think about your goals, and then you need to think about, I guess, the types of features that you want. Again, yeah, if you're going for a simple kind of service-based website, Wix, Squarespace are a great way to go. There's loads of AI website builders now where you can basically give a prompt of what you want, of how you want your website built, and then they will kind of generate an entire website for you in, again, a matter of minutes. And it's all designed to kind of make things easy and more accessible. So I guess the time you need to kind of spend a lot of time, you know, researching and seeing what works for you. It's also worth noting as well, a lot of these platforms have like a free version or a free trial. Wix have a free plan. Squarespace is free for 2 weeks. Have a 2-week trial. Shopify as well. I think they're free for like 3 days, but then it's like £1 a month if you wanted to test for the next 3 months. So have a go at all of them and get a feel for which one you think is the easiest to get your head around. One that kind of works with your goals, and just one you find the most comfortable with, to make use of any kind of free trials or demos that they offer you, because there's a lot out there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose you made a really good point when we started there about knowing what your website goal is. It's very much, don't put the cart before the horse, did you?
Cart before the horse, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I suppose that's an excellent point as well. Don't necessarily commit to a platform before you've had the chance to, you know, maybe try one of the free trials or a few of the free trials and see which one works for you. Jack, I was going to ask, because obviously you have a background in coding and you've sort of started to recently move into website builders and use those. Wix, how would you say Wix is in terms of user friendliness, as in it being kind of the first website builder that you've gotten to use? Imagining, for example, that you are a small business owner that has never done website before, like, would you say it's quite easy in terms of the approach initially?
Yeah, it's definitely easy enough to pick up. Obviously, I have a bit of a background in kind of coding and websites in general, but yeah, definitely, I think it is easy enough to pick up. It works in a drag and drop system, so similar to Canva. It has a lot of similarities to Canva, really. It's just going on and trying to figure out kind of what you want on your page and kind of how you'd link it from page to page is a bit of the kind of the tricky part that people may find issue with. But design wise, definitely, it's really similar to Canva, and again, you should have no problem going through. And again, there's a variety of really useful templates available for you for free on Wix as well, which is handy enough, that obviously you can go and change and remove stuff to your liking. So it's definitely really beneficial, and I see it being quite user friendly for someone who hasn't used it before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's the thing too. I think people maybe often have this preconception that you maybe need to be a visual designer to create a website, but it isn't at all. There's tons of templates there, and there's obviously the ability to be able to go in and add your own brand colors and logo and images and everything. So it's not that you need to be the most creative person in the world. And also, I suppose a website is one of those things that it's a bit like if you build a house, you'll not necessarily have the exact same house 50 years later, you're probably going to go in and you're going to tweak things and you're going to update things and you're going to modernize things based on trends and sort of design trends and things like that. So that's really, really key. I know we could talk about Wix, but Cyber News does rate it as the best website builder overall in 2026. I think in terms of it being an all-rounder, because it has,
Yeah.
that user friendliness. It's got really good design templates. It's got a good selection of apps, as they call them,
Yeah.
known as plugins, and kind of good for people who have no previous website development experience. But, as we've mentioned, there's tons of other options, Squarespace, GoDaddy, and different builders like that. And obviously, again, back to the goal, depending on what you want to do. For example, if you're moving into selling products online, then you'd probably really want to look at Shopify. So yeah, tons of options there. It is just a case of doing your research and seeing what works. And obviously, Khadija, you mentioned AI sites. Obviously, loads of these website builders will have AI features, but then you also have platforms that are specific to actually generate the entire site in terms of design, development, and content. In your experience, like, are there any cons in terms of using those? Because obviously the pros are, it's fast and efficient. It's a really, really quick way to develop a site. But are there any potential downsides in using a purely AI website builder to generate your site?
I think the main downside would probably be any kind of custom functionality, or like really like custom design that you want to have, because it's the same with using templates from any other kind of website platform, but you have limited control, and that's partly designed because the tools are designed to be easy, but that usually means that you have less flexibility. You can't always tweak things exactly to how you want, and some platforms don't even allow the full code access or export, which means that in the long term it can limit what you can really do. And also, because AI is generating everything, some of the websites, especially if you're not kind of editing things yourself, changing up the content, and putting your own input as much as possible, some websites can end up having like similar layouts, similar wording, like a kind of generic feel. You can spot an AI built website quite quickly if it hasn't been customized. So your input as much as possible is always really important as well. And anything like with tools like Base44, you are relying on prompts. So what you get can vary, and sometimes things don't always come out the way that you want, especially if you're not prompting correctly. If you're giving very vague prompts, and you're not saying specifically, I want this section, I want the user to feel like they can trust my business, and not giving enough context that way, it can make your website feel a bit generic. So limited control would be the big one, but I guess that would be more of a problem sort of long term. And then the other main kind of downside is if you're not putting your own input enough, if you're not giving your own kind of recommendations to change, and being specific in what you want, it can look a bit generic and similar to other people's AI generated websites that also haven't been customized as well. So you still need to guide it. It's not always a one-click perfect result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's exactly like if you were using AI for any other purpose, what you put in terms of the prompt and ensuring that you follow, the road framework and things like that are actually going to dictate the quality of what you get out. So definitely worth, again, looking into, but I'd say approach with caution.
Yeah.
I think even back in 2024, I have a statistic where 68% of small businesses used AI-assisted tools for website creation. I haven't seen an updated figure, but I would actually guess that it's drastically higher now.
Yeah.
So obviously, we talked about goals, and I think another potential pitfall for people is that they just don't plan the website. Whether you're actually using a builder, or you're going through an agency, or you're using an AI website creator, there's so much to consider before you even get to the point of having a fully launched website. What would you consider, what would you say, Khadija, are maybe the first, 5 things that you should consider before you are actually going to start the build?
So the first one, and I know we talked about it before, but is your main goal? Like, what is your main purpose for having the website? Do you want people are you trying to generate inquiries through a booking form? Are you trying to sell products? Are you trying to just, get an online presence? Because that will set the tone for everything else going forward. It will allow you to select, which platform is the best, what kind of how the content wording like should sound as well. So you need to think about your goal. You also need to think about as well like your own kind of budget as well. The good thing about a lot of these website builders and platforms is they're very clear on their pricing. So you need to think about the cost. Sorry, you need to think about the cost that it takes, that it will be for setting up a website. This is also, it's not just sort of for the website builder itself, but also for things like domain, any kind of ongoing apps or apps that you have connected to the website. Sometimes they'll have an ongoing sort of subscription as well. So you need to think about that as well. The third thing I would say would be scalability. So can the website platform that you're looking at, can it grow with you basically? Can it handle, more pages? Can it handle more products? Can it handle more traffic, even more features? So if you outgrow your platform too quickly, it can slow you down later. Or you might need to consider a completely different platform altogether as well. You also need to consider the SEO capability as well. You need to look at the build and see, can you add blogs? Can you optimize pages to add things like meta descriptions and titles, and be able to structure the content correctly in a way that search engines can understand the content really quickly and easily. If you can't control your content properly, you'll struggle to get found, really. And then the last thing that I think that would be good to consider is really your user experience. So understanding what we call to actions. So the main action that you want users to take on your website, is it to book a call? Is it to call us now? Is it to buy now? You want to consider what it is the main thing that you want users to do, and always have users at the end of their journey, they'll go onto your website, come to that call to action. It's not enough just to have it at the bottom of the page, like a call us section or a read now or a buy now. You need to have it consistently throughout your website and your navigation bar, and making it as clear as possible what the next step is for the user as well. And that will help kind of guide as well the content copy that you have and building the website going forward.
Absolutely. I suppose, as you mentioned there, Khadija, a really important consideration throughout the website planning process is content. Obviously, content is key. There is absolutely no point in building a really beautiful, well-functioning, impactful website if no one can actually find you online. Jack, from your experience in working with various small to medium-sized businesses in terms of their SEO strategy, what would you say is really common in terms of potential pitfalls? Like in your experience, what would you see a lot of?
Just a lack of information really is probably the most key one I see. Like a lot of people and a lot of businesses I work with would have kind of small kind of landing pages and not much kind of e-commerce websites or anything like that there. So it's just a distinct lack of content on there, because SEO especially is taken into consideration quite a lot about the content on your page. So if kind of Google deems that the content isn't valuable for users, there's maybe less than 200 words, they just won't even index it in the first place, or won't even try to rank it as well for certain keywords. And with the content as well, they're lacking many vital keywords as well to be able to rank higher in Google search engines.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose a key part as well is not just having enough content, but quality content, like helpful content, and remembering that you know your business inside out, but avoiding things like jargon or really, really technical terms, as obviously that might be great for you, but it's not necessarily going to help Google and your potential customers find you. So obviously then once you get to the point where you actually design, develop, you've picked your website builder, you've got your website good to go. Obviously next is the kind of launching process, which is really key. What are some of the kind of final points that you need to tie up, or what is it you need to exactly do, Khadija, before you get to the point of being able to launch your website?
The first thing that you should do, and to be honest, this is something that you should be doing throughout your website build, is checking the mobile experience. More and more people are using are accessing websites through their phones. So if you open your website on your mobile and the buttons are too small, the text is too small to read, the elements are kind of getting squished together, people aren't going to stay on your website. They will leave your website as soon as they see that, and that will attribute to what we call your bounce rate. So a very high bounce rate indicates that someone is clicking onto your website but immediately clicking off, due to either slow loading times or just a really inaccessible website. So give a final check on your website on mobile. You should do that throughout as you're building every section, every page. But before you launch, always check it on mobile. Always have like the basic sort of SEO, basic SEO optimization on your website. So things like making sure every single page has a meta title and just a meta description attached. You've got a heading 1 on all your page. Try and include at least 400 words of content on every single page, which can be really tricky on like landing pages and service pages. But you want to have enough content on there for Google to index it, to rank it, and understand what the main topic of the page is about. So do a kind of sort of SEO and kind of SEO checklist, and just making sure that you're giving your site the best chance possible to rank higher in search engines as well. And just kind of test all the buttons and links, and do a kind of overall kind of check as well. Once you have that, then you're pretty much good to go to start launching. And the only thing that you'll need for launch then would be your domain, and depending on what platform that you use, you will also need to use a hosting plan as well. A lot of people don't realize that they're two separate payments and two separate things as well. So your domain is just the name of your website, soandso.com. And then your hosting is essentially where your website is going to sit on the internet. You need to pick a hosting provider. But platforms like Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, they're all hosted within their own platforms. Anything more custom like WordPress, for example, you would need to pick from the hundreds of WordPress hosting platforms that there are out there. So it'll be those two kind of things that you'll need to consider which one you want to go for and purchase through as well. And hosting will depend on like the size and the scale of your business. It can be anywhere from £9 to £30 a month, and more depending on the size of your website as well. So another kind of key thing to consider as well.
Yeah. And the domain, is that something that you can purchase outright, or is it something that you have to, for example, review annually?
Yeah. So the domain, you would need to register it for a set number of years, usually 1 or 2, up to 10 years, depending on who you're buying it with. And as soon as and as you get closer to like the expiry date, I guess, you need to re-register it as soon as possible. If you let your domain expire without registering it, it's essentially up for grabs for anyone to buy. Even if you've had that domain for like 20 odd years, if you fail to register it in time, it might be bought by someone else, and they'll have all rights to it as well. So just something to be aware of. Most good domain providers will send you emails closer to the time to say your domain is up for renewal. Please renew it, and then you'll just renew it from there.
But I suppose the key word there, like you said, is good domain providers.
Good.
So you pick a reputable one and check your customer reviews. So obviously, we're at the point now where we've launched the website, it's live. I think something that we see, and it's just probably a case of people not knowing simply, is just there is obviously like loads of post-launch considerations, whether that's in the kind of short term or the long term. As soon as your site's live, I guess you could do exactly what you said that you do before it, is go in, check that all the buttons work, check all the call to actions, link to where they're supposed to and everything like that, and that everything looks exactly like it should, both on desktop and mobile. But there's a lot of kind of continued maintenance I think people are generally not that aware of. So I would say from the perspective of sort of the technical side of things, always use free tools like GT metrics or page speed insights.
Yeah.
Kind of monitor speed, performance, loading times, because as much as the content is what helps your SEO, very much the performance of the website itself is as well. And in terms of the content, people forget that you have to update it, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go in and add 25 new pages to your website every month. But go in, make sure that your contact details are up to date, add new customer reviews, add case studies, testimonials, anything like that you can maintain all the information and service and product descriptions and everything like that, and keep it up to date as possible. Like, that's really, really important. Another thing I think people often forget about is plugins, right? There's a lot of bad practice with plugins.
Yes, it's more kind of applies to more like WordPress websites, because even though with Shopify and Wix, they do have their own apps that you can install. Wix handles all the kind of hosting. Wix and Shopify, sorry, they handle all their kind of hosting needs, and that includes like plugin updates. But with WordPress, yes, you're kind of responsible for your own plugin updates, and that means making sure that you're on top of anytime there is an update, you update it immediately. A best practice would be to check your website weekly for updates. Make a backup of your website before you start making an update, and then update each plugin one by one. Take your time with it. It depending on how many plugins that you have, it shouldn't take any more than about half an hour. But as long as you're up to date and you're up to date with your plugins, it shouldn't cause too many issues on your website going forward as well. If you leave too long of a gap between updates, then that's when you start to notice issues. If you do update after like a couple of months and certain things don't look right on your site, certain features stop working, and then that causes a lot more issues that are more timely and possibly more costly to fix as well.
Yeah.
But just another point on like what you meant on continually on content updates as well. We always recommend for clients to add some kind of blog on their website, because a blog is a really good way and really easy way to kind of keep your website updated with new content, because it's hard, especially if you don't have anything like products, or you're not continually adding new services. It's hard to add new content. You can only add as much About Us content on a page as you can, but a blog section will allow you to write content for anything to do within your industry. A lot of people think with a blog content they only need to talk about themselves as a business, but they can talk about new updates in their industry. They can talk about, if it's like a service-based business, for example, they can talk about how things have changed in the service, what benefits certain services bring, and things like that. It allows you to update your website with new content. It also means that you can target new keywords as well. If you know that there's a certain keyword that you're not ranking for, you can create a blog post to target that keyword and try and increase your reach for that keyword as well. So we always recommend adding some kind of blog section onto a website as well for easy content updates.
Absolutely. And I mean, I suppose even just in terms of the amount of information that we've covered in this short episode, like, Jack, how would you suggest to small businesses or clients in terms of how do they keep themselves up to date with everything? How do they keep themselves upskilled and stay on top of important information about managing their website?
I mean, I definitely consult my best friend, AI. I definitely have a wee word with him. No, I definitely stay up to date, kind of, because Google and SEO are known to put out these updates quite regularly, like usually around kind of October time of the year that they put out these SEO updates. So just keeping up to date with them, and then staying kind of educated on the topic, because it's all well and good putting the website out there, but not updating it and not kind of tracking how it's performing and keeping up to date in the Google Analytics and Google Search Console can have a bit of a downfall onto your website. So I get definitely keeping up the trackings and making sure you're keeping up to date with kind of the general SEO kind of updates recently. That'll help out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, as well, there's tons of YouTube tutorials out there and things like that. We don't necessarily need to contact an agency, but there's always that help out there. And just, do the research as best you can. Well, thank you so much, guys. That was a really, really interesting episode this week. Please, everyone that was watching, listening, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time for another episode.